It's been a while since we've done a Bossa Nova video, so I thought why not get back into it with a great Jobim tune called Wave. Antonio Carlos Jobim has been one of my favorite composers for a long time, and Wave has been one of my favorite tunes to play. Wave was released in 1967 and is the title track to Jobim's fifth studio album. The album also features two additional classic tracks, Look to the Sky and Triste, which have become standards in the jazz repertoire. Many of Jobim's tunes are composed with unusual form and section lengths. In the 6th edition real book, Wave opens up with a 4-bar intro of D minor 9 and G13. This is just a 2-5 in C, but a bit fancied up with 9 and 13 tensions. As an aside, whenever you see a chord labelled minor 9 or minor 11, just think of it as a minor 7 chord. Whenever you see a 9 chord or a 13 chord, like G13 in this case, just think of it as G7. It'll make things much easier. So don't be put off by these complicated looking chord symbols. This intro is frequently played as an outro during live performance. The A sections are 12 bars long, and the B section is the more standard 8 bars. When the melody comes in, the harmony switches to the key of D major. D major has two sharps, F sharp and C sharp, as seen in the key signature. This sudden switch from D minor to D major is one of the characteristic sounds of Wave, along with this next chord, B flat diminished 7. Diminished chords can serve several functions in jazz harmony, and there's a great deal of music theory behind them. They can resolve up or down by a half step, in this case down to A minor 7, but here I believe it's used as more of a surprise chord.
Wow.
Adding some nice dissonance to the harmony. It also supports the melody, which ascends the B flat diminished 7 arpeggio. Next we have a 2-5-1 to the 4 chord, followed by a minor version of that same 4 chord. Again, we see some tensions on these next few chords, 9s, 13s, etc. But boiled down, these are just secondary dominant 7th chords, F sharp 7 and B7. In the key of D major, F sharp 7 is the 5 chord of the 6 chord, and B7 is the 5 chord of the 2 chord. Next is a 2-5 in A major, with E in the bass on the 2 chord. B flat 7 is the flat 6 dominant 7th in the key of D, leading to the true 5 chord A7 with a sharp 5. The sharp 5 is important here because it's played in the melody. Lastly, wrapping up the A sections, we return to the 2-5 in C previously seen in the intro. The B section chords are very interesting here. The chords displayed in the real book are approximately what Jobim originally composed for this section. In my experience with playing this tune in jazz groups, it's common practice to simplify the chord progression down to 2 sets of 2-5-1s, one in F and one in E flat. Having said this, I really like the original changes Jobim wrote, so I've used both sets in this bass etude. Check out the original recording from 1967 to hear how the B section chords were originally composed. There's a link in the description. A7 flat 9 sets up the last A section, which is identical to the previous 2 A sections. I wrote a 2-chorus line for this tune. We'll be looking at the first chorus in this lesson. The second chorus can be found over on my Patreon page. The etude starts off modestly, just trying to set the groove for the Bossa Nova, and I've included a few sample bass fills just for fun. So let's get into the bass line.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Bossa Nova bass playing is all about just laying down a groove and trying to play as relaxed as possible. A good way to do that is by playing the roots and fifths. That's the most common way of playing the Bossa Nova bass line. And from time to time adding in the odd bass fill to give your line some spice. And we'll talk about them as we go through. So starting off with the intro, I'm just going to play some root notes. Just some Ds and some Gs in different octaves. And a nice little bass fill leading into the first A section. Okay, let's continue on playing root notes. B flat diminished 7. Now this chord is kind of interesting. It's a series of consecutive minor thirds on top of each other. So what do I mean by that? We start with B flat. We go up 1, 2, 3 half steps. We get to C sharp. We do the same thing again. 1, 2, 3. We get to E. Do it again. 1, 2, 3. We get to G. Do it again. 1, 2, 3. We get to B flat. So it's a series of minor thirds. And so the fifth in this chord will actually be the flat fifth, the E. That's our fifth note. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I'm going to play root, flat 5, octave. That's all you need to keep in mind for this chord, is that we're not playing the perfect fifth, that's not in the chord, we're playing the flat fifth. A minor 7 arpeggio, descending, root, 7, 5th, and 3rd. Nice little bass fill there, and D major triad on the D7 chord. Back to roots and fifths. Notice the shape that the left hand has for the roots and fifths. It's almost always the same shape. Back to root notes. And a little bass fill to bring us to the second A section. So aside from using roots and fifths, you can use these passing note ideas in there. You can use other notes in the chord, like on that A minor 7, just descending the arpeggio, D major triad. You can use all those types of ideas. Use notes that are in the chord, use notes that are in the key if you know what they are. And just in general, don't play too many bass fills. Play a couple from time to time, lay down that groove, and then you'll be good to go. Okay, second A section, going all the way up here. 5th fret on the A string, the note D, and we'll play the A's up on the 7th fret of the D string. Root and 5th. Root and flat 5th again. Bass fill, D major triad. Okay, keeping it fairly simple. Root notes. Double passing note into F sharp 7. Now that's a pretty cool bass fill. What's happening there is we're playing this low B on the B7 chord and then going up to the 5th F sharp octave, flat 7, 5th, root. This shape that this bass fill makes in my left hand, we often refer to that as the box shape because it forms this 4-note box of this 4-note box shape is what it forms, right? Sort of looks like a box of notes. Now this box shape can be used for a couple of different chord types. It can be used in this case for the dominant 7th chord, so for B7, right? Because B7's got a root, perfect 5th, minor 7, an octave, and can be used for B minor 7, root, perfect 5th, flat 7, an octave, right? So it's a very versatile shape. Definitely keep that one in mind. Add that one to your bass lines. So continuing on, open E string, now this line might be a bit tough for some of you to play. It's very off the beat, it's very syncopated, so I would highly recommend counting out the rhythms as you play. Don't count too fast though, count at a nice easygoing pace. It might sound something like this. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, 4. B section. Back to roots and 5ths. Box shape over F minor 7 there. Roots and 5ths. And then a short E and a drop down to A and 2 octaves. All right, last A section. We're getting through it. So in the demo, I played this bit playing D on the 5th fret of the A string, then the last D as an open D, and then shifting back to B flat like this. You could also play it like this. You could play it all in this position. Play 5th fret, 6th fret on the E string for B flat, 5th fret for A, 7th fret on the A string for E, and then 5th fret again. Right? That probably makes a bit more sense, so maybe I'll use that today. This bass fill is pretty fun to play, although it is a little bit tricky. So what's happening, we're playing this D, and then playing the minor 3rd, sort of a leading note, with a hammer on into the 3rd of D7, F sharp, and then open A string, open D, open A, G to end the fill. Now, what makes this bass line a bit tough to play is you've got to try to mute this open D string after you play it, so the notes don't sort of blend together like that. So if you notice, my left hand just touches that D string at the same time as I play the final open A string to keep that note muted. All right, let's keep going. That little idea there, I'm playing G, F natural, and F sharp. In jazz theory land, we call that a chromatic enclosure. And what that means is the target note is F sharp for the F sharp 7 chord, and we're playing a half step on either side of that note before we actually play it. Half step above, half step below, and then F sharp. Okay, so that's called a chromatic enclosure. Nice bass run. And a hammer on into that 5th. And last line. Drop to E. And we'll bring it back home with some more syncopation. Once again, with this bass line, make sure that you count out the rhythms. It's going to help. And that's the first chorus of the etude. Thanks for watching, everyone. Please check out the full bass line over on my Patreon. And if you would like to request a song for the next lesson, please leave your suggestions down in the comments below. Thanks so much, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.